Hey, today's Make It Monday. I'm dyeing some fabric. I have I think it's about 4.5 meters of a undyed cotton velveteen. Don't know if you can see the texture in that. It's got a velvet effect. It's 100% cotton, this one, so it's going to be quite fun. I have pre-soaked it in a solution of soda ash, sodium carbonate, and it has sat for a while waiting for me to get around to doing it. So there's not a lot of moisture in this. Haven't had to wring it out because I waited so long. It's actually all the water has evaporated. Anyhow, if I had soaked it overnight yesterday, for example, I would wring it out so that it was damp but not drippy. So this is actually quite a good texture. And I have 4 fabric dyes. Procyon dyes. Procyon dyes are the optimal ones for your cotton, linen, all your plant-based fibres, as well as silk. It does silk as well. So anything made from a plant works really well. So pre-soaked in the soda ash, wrung out so there's not a lot of moisture sitting in it, scrunched up in the bowl because I want a lot of texture and interest, and 4 different Procyon dyes dissolved just in basic tap water. I have a litre roughly of each of the 4 dyes because there's quite a lot of fabric here, and I've put a heaped teaspoon in the case of one dye powder into the liquid, the water. So I'm going to start by just doing a random all over dye with this, and I don't really care how it goes, so I'm a little bit open to it basically doing its thing. So there's no right or wrong in how we go about doing these, but I'm just going to start with some of the lilac, violet actually, it's violet, and I'm just going to pour little bits. Oops, now I've got dye all over me. How unusual. This table's not very stable. I'm just going to dye little bits all over the fabric. And I'm just going to, so far I've used about half of that. Now I'm going to take my hot pink and I'm just going to pour it in some different spots. Now because the soda ash is already on this fabric, as the colour comes in contact with the soda ash dyed fabric, it's already starting to react. So you can see I've got some really interesting colours, and we're getting a little bit of blending. Now I'm going to use all of the hot pink, and I'm just going to tip out a little bit of the excess dye because I don't want my fabric sitting in the base. If I left all my fabric sitting in the base of dye, it would be absorbing all that, and that's how you get really muddy looking fabrics. So this one is pale aqua. It's a really soft colour, and I'm just going to basically pour it all over. And where there's places where there's no dye, the pale aqua will absorb in. So you can see there, very light pale aqua on the top there. It's not going to be a dominant colour. In fact, it's probably going to disappear completely in the mix of this, but it will be in there to influence that colour. And then this one that I have is bubblegum. So I'm just now going to pour the bubblegum all over any spots that might not have a lot of colour. And I'm going to again tip out the excess dye that's in the base of this because I don't want mud and I don't want a lot of vibrant strong, vibrant colour. I want this really soft and drifty with bits of pink. And you can see how the colour's starting to come. I'm just going to use the last of this bubble gum over the top there, and then I'm going to let that just sit. Now I have a little bit of the violet left, so what I can do, if I want to, if there's any gaps that need colour, I can go through and add some. That bit there looks a little bit plain, for example, so I might just put a little splash of the violet, scrunch it through a bit. And now I've got a bit more interest occurring in that bit. Now I don't want any more purple to dominate the pink particularly. I want this, as I said, really soft and drifty, really pretty pinks and purples with just a hint of the pale aqua sitting underneath it to give it all that colour. But I will save the rest of my violet, I'm pretty sure it's violet, for tomorrow's dye. Now I'm just going to leave this here to sit, and I'm going to let it sit for, I'm going to let it sit overnight, but the normal time frame is about 6 to 8 hours. So if I just leave that one alone, there's not a lot of colour in the base, so I can show you that. So there's just a little bit of colour sitting in the base. That's not going to be enough to cause problems or mud, because there's really only the one little colour combination. So yeah, I'll leave that, and in the morning I'll come back and show you how the colours all worked out once we've rinsed it. It's going to be very pretty. Right, back soon. Here's our finished dyed fabric after I've rinsed it and taken it off the line. It's got this glorious nap because it's a velvet, but it's 100% cotton velvet, and you can see the colours coming through, very soft and drifty. I'll just focus in on some of that. Over here you can see a hint of the pale aqua has remained, so that's pretty good. But overall it's just a really soft, drifty pink and purple combination. And because we've gone through the dyeing process, there's been a lot of blending. So the technique that I showed you at the beginning of this video was very much about getting a little bit of discretion in the colours. So when we look at each piece, you do see some areas that have got quite distinct colours in it, and every piece will be subtle but more than one colour. It's a fairly monochromatic colour scheme, but it's not boring and flat. It's got a lot of movement and activity. So even when I do colours that are quite plain, when I dye them, I make sure that I use at least 3, and in the case of this one yesterday, 4 colours, so that you've got a lot of movement and activity in the piece. So these are going to be really fabulous once they're cut up into smaller pieces and you can start to use them. I'll have these on the website when I finish the other 4, and I'll have them in fat quarters primarily, but if people want larger pieces they just have to let me know. I've never dyed this particular fabric before, so I bought a roll just to see how it behaved, and I'm pretty happy with that. It's quite a lovely fabric, great for kids' toys or clothes, cushions, comforters, bags even. Anything you want a little bit of texture and tactileness. I don't know if that's a word. Anyway. Alright, I will leave this here for now, and I will come to see you next week with another project. Okay, bye.